have a weird craving for liver and fava beans. Hey Hungry fans, Julia here for D-News. Cannibalism. If you're a Hannibal fan, you're not squeamish around the subject of people eating other people, but it's one of the biggest taboos in human history. But not in nature. Sometimes it's a family affair. Mothers eat babies, babies feed off mom, or a mom eats dad. Other times it's warring factions of the same species, like chimps in Gombe National Park who ate neighboring groups' offspring as described in a study published in the journal Nature. But why don't humans do it? Well, simply put, it's not socially acceptable. It's not socially acceptable.
You'd think eating your own kind would be a bad idea. I mean, it could be hard enough to survive and reproduce without having to worry about members of your own species taking you out too. But lots of animals are cannibals, from mantises that eat their mates to mice that eat their babies. So there must be some kind of benefit to it. And since, in the immortal words of the Bloodhound Gang, we ain't nothing but mammals, you'd expect human cannibalism to have its upsides too, even if the idea is a little nauseating. Obviously, there are social and moral factors to consider when it comes to eating people, but if you strip those away and just focus on the biology, there's some evidence to suggest that eating human flesh actually has some benefit. Human flesh has its own unique profile of proteins, fats, and other nutrients. The more closely related your meal is to you, the more closely its nutrient profile will match your needs, which would make human meat the most nutritious choice for other humans. Studies in all kinds of animals, from beetles to frogs to fish, have found that carnivores are healthier when they're fed members of their own or closely related species.
What do lab-grown meat, lab-grown breast milk, food shortages, and cannibalism have in common? Well, probably a lot more than you think. Now, I've been saying for years here, and I sure wish I was wrong. You are seeing the normalization of some of the strangest things you can imagine. Right? We're running out of meat. Cows are obviously, they're destroying the planet, right? I mean, it's undeniable. Every single cow that's born, Mammy Earth, she sheds a little tear of oil. It's just so sad. She's dying, you guys. The climate's changing, and it's not going to stop changing until you listen to the good grown-ups at the New York Times and the billionaire philanthropists who just want to help you. Right? Those billionaire philanthropists that also wish to, and publicly state that their desire is to reduce human population. We need to help them help us eat the bugs. And hey, maybe even eat grandma. Man, why not? Why not? The climate's changing. Grandma and grandpa are expiring, right? They're not as useful anymore. They barely have any followers on Instagram, right? How many followers does grandma have on Instagram? Maybe we should eat her. Maybe, just maybe. Now, all right, this article from the New York Times, Cannibalism Has a Time and a Place. Some recent films, books, and shows suggest that the time is now. Can you stomach it? That's the Twitter, that's the tweet that they promoted this article with. The article is not exactly saying, well, let's maybe eat the babies to stop the climate from changing. Right? The New York Times isn't there yet. The New York Times isn't telling us, oh, grandma and grandpa, they're not so useful anymore. The social media clout is pretty low. What are they really doing for you? All right, they're just using all these resources. Maybe, why don't we just eat them? They're not telling us that yet. But this is coming out at a time when we are seeing what seems to be manufactured food shortages that are completely unnecessary. Right? Food shortages by design. A huge farmer protests in the Netherlands against the climate change battling measures that are going to cut off their ability to feed people, right? To make a living off of farming. But don't worry, the billionaire philanthropists who are putting them out of business, right, through their NGOs that are pushing for these policies in governments, don't worry, those billionaire philanthropists, they got plenty of money. They're buying up that farmland. Right? We've seen this before. History tends to repeat. Not only does history tend to repeat, but many of the people who have groomed and been the mentors of the world leaders today wrote about all of this stuff that we're seeing now decades ago. Jacques Attali wrote this book, A Brief History of the Future. Henry Kissinger says it's brilliant and provocative. Henry Kissinger is brilliant and provocative. Jacques Attali was the mentor of Macron. Emmanuel Macron was essentially reared and groomed for his position as president by the older generation of boomers like our buddy Jacques Attali. Jacques Attali, he is also a member of the World Economic Forum. Everybody's favorite transnational cartel of heads of corporations, heads of state, heads of major banks, all working together to bring about this utopia, right? What they tell you is going to be this great fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, it will not change the landscape around you, it will change you. It will change your very being. We need that slow piano music and an introduction by Klaus Schwab to Jacques Attali here. Jacques and Klaus are truly just ideological twin flames.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to participate for the 8th time at this important meeting, even if only in a virtual way. I would like to express my high respect to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for having taken the initiative for creating such an important global platform for governments shaping the future.
I would also like to thank such an important man as Jacques Attali, who also was helping to shape the future with his futurist writings throughout the decades, predicting and planning exactly what we are implementing at a mass scale today. A true visionary man, Jacques Attali. Jacques, you complete me. You complete me. You have helped us to design the smart city compods of the future. And without you and your visionary prediction of mass human engineering and the creation of chimera species. I apologize, I get a little reclapped when I speak on all the beauty you're helping us create, Jacques. We all look forward to the future predicted by Jacques Attali. We will have these chimera species and subhuman, semi-human warriors that we can put on the battlefield, and also the ability to equip animals with human brains, or even to create new species of man, ultra-human, uber-human, superhuman. And the important philosophical questions that are explored by Jacques. For instance, if we put a little human genes into the cow, can you eat the cow or are you cannibal? And how do we know how much human genes are okay to consume, or shall we just all believe it's okay to eat human? Jacques Attali, I love you.
I love sensitive Klaus. It's so sentimental. Oh. So Jacques Attali. I mean, this guy's got a wild past. Okay, he's dabbled in banking. He was the founder and first president of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. He's kind of close with the Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum crew. He's got many articles that are translated into English. French is his primary language, and you can get a copy of his book in English, of A Brief History of the Future. 1981, Michel Salomon did an interview with Jacques Attali, specifically about the themes of his book, The Cannibal Order, or The Power and Decline of Medicine. Jacques Attali sees medicine and sees cannibalism as kind of eternally yoked. Right? He sees cannibalism as this almost cosmic cleansing and ritualistic medicinal technique. Now, it might sound strange, but the way he explains it, his rationale is that, well, your body goes through catabolic processes, and your body itself is actually involved in cannibalistic processes, right? When you're going through any sort of healing in order to, for a wound to heal, sometimes you have to cauterize it. Sometimes you have to rip off and flay off dead tissue. Sometimes your body has to go through catabolic processes, what we call like autophagy now, where your body will kill and even consume dead cells, right? That's how your body gets rid of things like cancer cells, through the processes of autophagy. So he's kind of got this weird, like, oh, slippery slope, man. Well, your body's kind of your body's kind of a cannibal itself. So what's wrong with, maybe eating some people? What's wrong with maybe cloning people and then using their organs? Well, what would be inherently wrong with that? Right, so all medicine is just basically cannibalism, right? He talks about kind of the, this cannibalism as like this metaphysical binding ritual for cultures in order to excise, sick and depraved parts of society. The way that he twisted it is rather strange, because he goes on to speak about how in the future, things like euthanasia are going to be essential. Right? Euthanasia is going to be one of the essential instruments of our future societies in all cases, he says, in a socialist logic to begin with. And he defines himself as a socialist. He says, in a socialist logic to begin with, the problem is as follows. Socialist logic is freedom, and fundamental freedom is suicide. Consequently, the right to direct or indirect suicide is an absolute value in this type of society. Very strange. He also says that as a socialist, he's absolutely opposed to life extension. Opposed to life extension as a socialist, because life extension is not the point. The point is to reduce our need to work, right? It's got this like the obsessive kind of spurgy economics view of life, right? Life is just economics. Right? Human beings are just economic animals. In fact, human beings will even be subject to production. This is crazy. He says, he's asked, do you see the forced normalization governing all areas of life, including sexuality, since science today allows for almost total dissociation of sexuality in conception? He doesn't believe that we need this like top-down totalitarianism. He says that we're going to have a soft totalitarianism where a surveillance culture of everybody surveilling each other. And he expands on this idea in Brief History of the Future, where he says that nomadic devices, right, cell phones, he wrote this long before smartphones were in existence. His book, Brief History of the Future, he says these nomadic devices will become surveillance devices, and we will live in a surveillance society. And he even says that health will be one of the main things that is being surveilled. He even predicts that you are going to have health passports. Yeah, sound familiar? So Attali says, from an economic point of view, there are two reasons why I think we'll go very far as normalization of the governing of all aspects of life. He says the first is that production of men is not yet a market like any other. Following the logic of my general reasoning, it is impossible to see why procreation should not become an economic production like any other. So everything's just economics. This is insane. So he even talks about the commoditization of the womb. He says we can have rental matrices that are already technically possible. Dave Rubin and his boyfriend basically bought some lady's womb and bought a child. And you see this now, the normalization of children, of surrogate mothers, and the disconnection of the bond between the mother and the child. Where he says this is leading is ultimately what Lord Birkenhead talked about in his 1929 Cosmopolitan article. Lord Birkenhead spoke about how we are going to have ectogenetic births. Birkenhead was Winston Churchill's closest friend, a Lord, the British House of Lords, and in this 1929 article, which is an excerpt from his book, which we're going to be covering in a little bit, he says that all babies are going to be born in labs. He also says that we are going to be able to produce an ectogenetic slave who won't even know that he is enslaved. And he posits that, well, because they're going to be cloned and they're going to be basically slaves, is it really ethically or morally wrong? Who cares if we enslave them? We're going to breed them to where they're so dumb that they'll just do rote tasks for us all day long. This is how these people are thinking. I mean, it's insane. So Jacques Attali predicts this as well. Children are just going to be a commodity. He says, from an economic point of view, children are a commodity like any other. Society also considers them as such, but for social reasons. And he says, it'll be possible to buy children the same way as one buys peanuts or a television set. I mean, this guy's absolutely insane. The culture that we're going to live in, he says, I don't believe in Orwellianism because it's a form of technical totalitarianism with a visible and centralized big brother. He says, I believe rather in an implicit totalitarianism with an invisible and decentralized big brother. All right, so what he's talking about here is the social credit system that's being built. But don't worry, guys, it's going to be decentralized, right? It's going to be on the blockchain. So he says, I believe rather implicit totalitarianism with an invisible and decentralized big brother. These machines for monitoring our health, which we could have for our own good, will enslave us for our own good. In a way, we will be subjected to gentle and permanent conditioning. So you're going to be enslaved by these machines that are monitoring your health, but for your own good. He says, don't worry, it's for your own good. It's for the greater good. So it's all fine. Right? Humans will be birthed out of pods and basically just be made for organ donation or for medical purposes to be used for basically cannibalism. And he says, well, hey, this is fine because, we've always used cannibalism in medicine. So as our food supply is under attack, right, as local animal food production is being demonized, these people are telling us, well, hey, eat the bugs. But maybe there's other options. Maybe there's other options that'll help to decrease your carbon footprint. Yeah, so anyways, we got to be supporting real local animal food production. This is what they want you on. They want you on the McMonoculture McKibble. They want you eating soylent human meat McNuggets, right? And they're normalizing it, right? They're normalizing steaks grown from human cells. They're normalizing Bill Gates backing lab-grown breast milk, right? Celebrity meat. Bite Labs grows meat from celebrity tissue samples and uses it to make artisanal salami. So you'll be able to go to the deli and pick up a ham hock made from Lena Dunham's rear end. And you can chase that down with a little Melinda Gates lab-grown breast milk. This is completely disgusting. So we got to support local food production. We got to support local farmers. We got to support regenerative agriculture. And hey, maybe getting involved in the production of some food locally, maybe growing some of your own food if you feel so inclined, is a great idea these days. Because Klaus Schwab, Jacques Attali, and all these weirdos, they got other plans for us.
To the distinguished audience, this is a message from the World Economic Forum. We want to ensure that you do not listen to this bigot who will tell you to go to shock.com. There's a link in the description. Do not click the link in the description. It will bring you to a place where you can get highest quality adaptogens so that you can thrive. But the World Economic Forum would much prefer that you would continue to eat your bugs, live in your coon pod, maintain your social credit score, and do not purchase these products. If you do use the coupon code BIG53LIFE, you will get 53% off all subscriptions for life. Do not get a subscription for 53% off of the highest quality purified shilajit. It is best for you to continue to consume the soy sludge. It is preferable that you continue to drink the tap water, avoid quality food, and do not take chalk highest quality supplements. Thank you very much. The World Economic Forum loves you ever so much.